Hello to everybody. So my plan is to speak about refugee flows and the complexity of social relations and about the case of Slovenia. Reflecting on the life and fate of persons defined with the phrase migration waves requires, yes, in context of complex social and political relationship in Slovenia and European Union, at large under the title of What Does Integration Mean, Host or Recipient Society? So this question requires that we expand the original question. For the analysis to truly capture all the realities into which persons, refugees, are pushed today, we have to shift the perspective. From the point of view of the synchronic and diachronic analysis of how to think and manage diversity, we have to add the concept of exclusive society to those of host society and recipient society. The insight into the history of humanity through three analytical levels, practice, policies, theory, shows us endless diversification of alternatives, how we can think and manage socio-political relationships when diversity is in place. The purpose of this essay is to look at the title theme through the ideal type models of managing diversity in connection with structural characteristic of the socio-political system in Slovenia. Before I focus on the diversification of practices, policies, and theories of diversity and managing it, I'd like to define diversity. You know, diversity is not an exceptional state. It's not something special in human communities. The truly exceptional, unusual state is the one of non-diversity, or the so-called homogeneity. You know, people have always differed from one another, yet are similar to each other. All people are similar in that we are people. Within this similarity, we as individuals congregate in more or less exclusive groups or communities, convinced that we are similar to each other, speaking about, let's say, Anderson's way of understanding the question. These similarities, homogeneities, exist alongside with numerous forgotten differences between the so-called homogeneous people. Socio-political discourses forget the simultaneity of differentiation between these some people in the name of homogeneity, an absolute exclusive self-perception and self-belonging of groups on the relation we-they is constructed. At the same time, when the homogeneity of we is emphasized, a discourse of absolute difference is established in the relations towards they, and it allows for no similarity with we. Socio-political discourses about diversity are thus most often defined with binary logic between an absolute similarity and absolute difference. The absolute binary is a product of hegemonic relationships, which only through this framework create the division we-they in reality, while at the same time creating glasses we use to understand these same relationships, and we have to know that. It has already been mentioned in the beginning that through synchronic and diachronic approaches, different socio-political systems provide us with different approaches to how to think and manage diversity. And we can speak about that even on three levels: in practical levels, in the level of policy, and in the level of theory. We could talk about 4 different approaches nowadays, speaking about diachronic and synchronic perspective. So we can speak about exclusivist, conformist, melting pot, and cultural pluralism, later multiculturalism, and nowadays interculturalism approach. The exclusivist approach is connected by its complete refusal of exclusion of the different in the name of their underdevelopment, as the culture society is understood through the hierarchical concept of culture. Even the possibility that they could be assimilated is denied. Speaking about, for example, Ku Klux Klan in the United States, apartheid, ghettoizations, and these people, they are declared immanently non-assimilatory. So even so it is declared that they are non-assimilatory, that they don't have competence to assimilate to our very developed civilization. The model of conformity is characterized by the aspiration for a total forced assimilation of the different into the dominant culture society, which is declared the most developed, is another approach. The third one is so-called melting pot. In melting pot model, diversity is accepted as a value, while difference between culture society is understood through a differential concept of culture. But however, the heavy emphasis on the melting pot puts the model to imminent danger of silent assimilation. And then in the model of so-called cultural pluralism, multiculturalism, or interculturalism, where culture society are understood through differential concept of culture, the emphasis is on the right to dignity, respect, recognition, and the need to keep diversity. But the proponents of this model often forget that its essential assumption is the universal similarity between all people. This may cause them to slip into understanding differences and diversity as absolute, and in reality become the first model that is the model of exclusivism, but some kind of hidden exclusivism. When we continue, we must think these 4 approaches on how to think diversity to at least 3 models of society. And we may be thinking about society, but when it comes to migration, the state comes first, and the second, society is the second. So we can speak about the host society state, recipient society state, and exclusive society or exclusive state. The exclusive society, exclusive state, doesn't allow for the arrival of the people. Perhaps the arrival is closed to all newcomers or to certain groups. An example for the latter is the quota system in the United States at the beginning of the 20th century, which was in the 1960s recognized as racist and stopped. Today, the arguments supporting this system are once again reproducing within the European Union. The racist principles have been diversified, and we can now conditionally speak of its different phases. For example, racial racism, ethnic racism, cultural racism, or social racism, etc. The second model, the host society, host state. In this state, the newcomers is a guest. She or he will remain for a limited period of time and then leave. We include her, him, where necessary, or help her, him. When we no longer need the guest, or when he no longer needs shelter, he will leave. This was the concept behind, for example, Gastarbeiter, guest worker, system in Germany, and the policy towards the people who were looking for security in Slovenia during the time of the last war in Social Federative Republic of Yugoslavia. Here we can find the exclusivism with a kind face. It doesn't actually deal with the question of permanent inclusion of people, migrants, into the host society state. Migration is only discussed as a temporary situation, and the goal is, amongst others, the migrant's departure. And then we have the third module, that is recipient society, and the starting points of the recipient society state are importantly different. The migrant is accepted and he will stay. We are not dealing with the question if she or he will leave. We are interested in condition of living for the time he is here. Later in the essay, several variants of policies of receptions and managing the attitudes toward migrants are discussed. The principle of conformity with the anticipation of total assimilation, the principle of melting pot with silent assimilation, and possibility for the principle of so-called interculturalism, in the past cultural pluralism and later multiculturalism. But when we talk about interculturalism, we have to be aware that the issue is not easy, it's not simple. Social relationships are not rhetorical forms, and it's not enough to simply transfer the model to practice and then be done. For socio-political relationships, immanent to very concept, it is important that the society state as a whole is organized in a way that enable its realization in the first place. What do I want to point out? In his analysis of the American situation, Gordon in 1964 has already pointed out that cultural pluralism is in circumstances with strong social, cultural, or ethnic stratification can be counterproductive and even deepen the existing segregation and alienation between the members of different minority-majority groups and or communities, all in the name of fairness. It can even lead to strong ghettoization, which is then presented using multicultural principles as just and respectful of diversity. Within all this, diversity is often understood as a natural category with the absolute binary relation of homogeneous we and they, without allowing the possibility of any sort of similarity. Multiculturalism thus becomes a mechanism for justifying and solidifying exclusivism when others are systematically, through system or even structural racism, pushed into ghettoized parallel space of unpoverty, all in the name of justice and respect of diversity. So, speak about refugee crisis through the perspective of the described models and existing European or Slovenian discourses about refugees, we must begin the analysis about the refugee crisis with questions: who are refugees? Are refugees migrants? In the division between the categories of refugees and category of labor migrants necessary, Is this division necessary? And if so, why is it so? The analysis of the dynamic of discourses constructed during the last mass arrival of people into the European Union member states from the region of crisis, whether they arrived because of threat of war or because of the collapse of their home economies, that show us that the public European discourse first employed speculation when the hypernym migrant, which includes different forms of migration, forced labor, ecological, daily, seasonal, temporary, permanent. So this hypernym migration began to be used as a synonym for labor migrants. This created a base for a story about existence of two absolutely separate populations of people who were arriving in Europe, refugees and migrants. Discursive foundations were thus created so that in different situations, one or the other group of people could be demonized, and so it happened. In the beginning of mass arrival of people from the countries in the Middle East through the territory of the socialist Yugoslavia into other European Union member states on so-called Balkan routes, refugees were demonized. The stigmatization starts in the very beginning with naming the route, which they came on as Balkan routes, as the Balkan has been in the mainstream European discourses for years understood through Said Orientalism or Todorov's Balkanism as something extremely dangerous, undeveloped, and barbaric. But the main stigma for people seeking safe refuge was linked to the Orientalism of the European discourses in relations to Islam, which, through Huntington's West and the West, is understood as a dangerous, homogeneous formation without inner diversification, with a solid link to terrorism and absence of civilization, and in the end, as strong barbarism. This unconscious stigma, internalized in the concept of Balkan and Islam, has further helped in intensive demonization of the arriving people and was used as the excuse for inhuman treatments, for violence, disrespect, human rights violation, and finally as an excuse for securitization and later militarization of treatments and attitudes toward newcomers. Towards the end of 2015 and in the beginning of 2016, there was a shift from demonization of refugees to the demonization of migrants. Here, the hypernym migrant was used for the population of labor migrants, and it created an understanding that refugees and migrants have nothing in common, that migrants are manipulative and dangerous people who come to Europe because of their personal greed. The greed drives them to abuse the distress of refugees for their own individual benefits. Because of greed, they are ready to mix among poor refugees, abuse the goodness of European countries, and benefit personally. This was followed in the third phase by linking refugees and migrants to terrorism, which even today remains the main argument for militarization, not only of the migration policy in the EU member states, but also for the anti-democratic dealings and militarization of socio-political relations in the European society states themselves. And at the so-called closure of the Balkan routes, people stopped coming. But the discourse of hatred towards people persisted, not only hatred towards the refugee and labor migrants, but, for example, in Slovenia, also in the relationship towards to another social minorities. The main argumentation for changes is safety and protection from terrorism. The care for hostile discourse was taken over by political parties, unfortunately not only the parties of the conservative right background. The parties of the so-called left have also not succeeded to organize a revolt against the new direct or covert racism, which in the recent months has been spreading wings across the entire European Union, including Slovenia. The dilemma, host or recipient society for the population of people currently classified as refugee, is a fake dilemma, both in Slovenia and in the European Union. In the large part of the EU members, exclusivism is overwhelming when it comes to prohibiting arrival of refugees. Let me mention just Poland, Czech Republic, Slovakia, Hungary, recent events in Austria and in Slovenia. Racism is growing, and there are no conditions to think even of a host society, let alone recipient. All the debates about the dilemma of host society state or recipient society state are merely rhetorical forms, a mimicry of covert racist exclusivism that was awakened and strengthened in Slovenia as well as in another EU member states, and it's still growing. In Slovenia, the situation is even more worrying, as the described covert racist exclusivism intervenes with stronger anti-intellectualism. Anti-intellectualism is growing when it comes to public opinion, but even more worrisome is its power when it comes to public administrations and experts and politicians. Even at the Ministry of Education, Science and Sports and the Slovenian Research Agency, which are in charge of science, education, knowledge-based society, one can encounter intensive anti-intellectualism and degradation of social importance of scientific research and educational work. Such work is declared unnecessary as a parallel reality without practical value. The social position of the creators of political strategies, including migration strategy and within it the refugee one, is occupied by powerful public officials and individual politicians who, in their anti-intellectual stance, don't even check with others their programs, strategies, reorganizations. They stand firmly on the position that they alone have their indisputable know-how, and that everything outside of this is an inconvenience that wastes their precious time. The so-called processes of public dialogue are merely an act they are forced to perform to satisfy normative aspects. But this dialogue has no influence on the final results. Public dialogue serves as the mimicry of own points of view, while the arguments for this act are full of anti-intellectualism when science and the non-politicized expertise and the non-government sector are banned from the mandate to know. Only deciders know, and their approaches are additionally filled with militant activity. It is precisely when it comes to the attitude to people that we count among refugees that in Slovenia two socio-political realities are established. First, on the one side, there is a civil society with non-governmental sector which actually lives the time and life with a handful of refugees that have decided to stay here despite everything. And on the other hand, is the state administration and politicians locked in an ivory tower. In the non-governmental sector, which works fueled by humanitarian activities or potentially receives minimal financing from the European project funding, the prevailing attitudes toward people who sought refuge here is the one honoring principles of inclusion and the recipient society. It is not important how long they will stay. It is important that for the time that they are with us, we offer them a possibility for a dignified life. On the other hand, in the parallel reality of the government state, political discourse and decision-making, there are not even principles of host societies, let alone the recipient society and society of inclusion. When the latter concepts are used, they serve as pure rhetorical formulation to cancel the actual exclusivism, discriminatory behavior, and racism. Lately, the decision makers don't even attempt to heed them and use exclusivism in the name of security. Concrete case that provides the above are nowadays the story of a Syrian family that is listed for expulsion from Slovenia. Their last hope to succeed to stay here is their case recently presented to the Constitutional Court. Establishing government office for a refugee, which would be independent, should be independent, but the regulations somehow stipulate that it must be headed by an employee of the Ministry of Interior. The planned changes of the Alien Acts as third argument, despite the fact that existing act is restrictive, is very restrictive for my opinion, further restrictions are planned in a way that I think nobody could arrive in Slovenia. So, how should I conclude the topic from the headline in the case of Slovenia? In Slovenia, the image of national homogeneity is gaining momentum. Homogeneity is understood as a nature-given fact and absolute category. It is perfectly clear who we are, and we are utterly the same. There, on the other side, are they, who are completely different from us and share no similarities whatsoever. The stance about them is sometimes also wrapped in the care for them through multicultural or intercultural that are only rhetorical formulation. We are good, we are very good, and we take care that they will forever remain different, they themselves. In the years of the independent Republic of Slovenia, the governing discourse in the attitude towards all immigrants populations has been exclusive. This holds true for different populations, for people who come to Slovenia in the times of Socialist Federative Republic of Yugoslavia as much needed labor force and give important contribution to Slovenian economic development, and their descendants, a number of them were erased. Then people who were saving their lives and come to Slovenia in the time of war in Yugoslavia and were later returned to their countries or former republic. Then people who came to Slovenia as necessary labor force in the last 20 years and were the most exploited population of workers, many of them negatively targeted in the time of crisis, which indirectly contribute to their return to original environments. Then people who carry out heavy labor in European countries as posted workers from Slovenian companies without legal protection and in the conditions of brutal exploitation. Or people who were saving their lives from war danger or economic distress and have walked from the Middle East to Slovenia. The attitude towards all of them above is exclusivist in Slovenia. The only thing varying away from this mainstream socio-political discourse toward migration is the discourse about the Slovenian emigration. The population of Slovenian emigrants is officially labeled as Slovenians abroad, Slovenes abroad, and we expected that other environments will be favorable towards Slovenians, inclusive, respectful, intercultural, and integrative. The biggest gap in the fields of migration discourse is thus shown on the level of the attitude of we elsewhere versus others here, where we expect everything for us, while we are not ready to provide anything for others. Observing this gap reveals inherent structural racism in Slovenia, as we elsewhere, that is emigrants, are the subject of the Office for Slovenians Abroad with its own minister, while others here, so immigrants, are the object of Ministry of Interior. Thank you very much.